In his 30 years as commissioner, David Stern made it possible for the NBA to scramble from the brink of bankruptcy and irrelevance to a position of global significance unthinkable in the dark days of the late 1970s and early 1980s, when the league was beset by drug problems, teams were going bankrupt, and the finals were on tape delay. That stunning reversal of fortune is why Stern will be remembered as perhaps the greatest leader of any sports league ever. Of course, the league's rebirth can't be attributed solely to Stern's savvy and toughness. It wasn't Stern, after all, who fashioned from clay the transcendent Larry Bird-Magic Johnson rivalry. It wasn't Stern who imbued Michael Jordan with his gifts either. But make no mistake, there might be no other sports executive ever who so adeptly utilized the tools at his disposal. No other commissioner who so clearly recognized and exploited the resources of his sport. With Stern in charge, the NBA called itself fantastic, but it was really a star factory. The league marketed its stars to the hilt, and no league ever better mastered the art of marketing than David Stern's NBA. At its inception, years before the advent of the internet, not to mention Twitter or Instagram, the Slam Dunk Contest was a phenomenon, a must-see event created by Stern's lieutenant Rick Welts. People too young to have seen Jordan versus Dominique in the heyday of the competition can hardly fathom how big a deal it was. Then, in 1992, there was the Dream Team, the ultimate expression of Stern's strategic thinking, of his desire to make the league a global brand. With Jordan and Magic and Barkley all in Olympic uniforms, the world was suddenly safe for Stern's unique brand of basketball diplomacy and capitalism, with the entire planet turned into a marketplace for NBA TV rights, and eventually LeBron James jerseys. 10 years after the first Dream Team won gold in Barcelona, Yao Ming was the top overall pick in the draft. This was not coincidence. In its own way, Yao's arrival was a milestone on the same order of magnitude as the Magic-Bird rivalry and the rise of Michael Jordan. There is a good reason why David Stern had a seat on the Council on Foreign Relations. In terms of his management style, Stern was not a man to be trifled with. He could be intimidating, demanding, imperious. In fact, all of the above.
Why was the Lakers for Chris Paul trade not an acceptable deal for you?
Well, your question indicates that you don't understand the capacity in which I was acting.
But he could also be charming and refreshingly blunt and honest, even on the subject of the owners for whom he worked. For example, when the New York Knicks lost a court battle about sexual harassment in their front office.
It demonstrates that they're not a model of intelligent management.
Of course, under Stern, who reigned for so long, there were many challenges and controversies. Even as total revenue and player salaries skyrocketed, there were too many lockouts. There was the infamous Pacers-Pistons brawl in Detroit, which exposed a yawning disconnect in the relationship between players and fans. Tim Donaghy, a veteran NBA referee, went to prison on gambling-related charges. But in the end, David Stern will be remembered for all the ways in which he elevated the NBA, enriched his owners and the players, popularized the game in places where it had been an afterthought. When he took over, none of that was guaranteed. Back then, it would have seemed at best unlikely that the NBA would become a global behemoth. It is perhaps the ultimate testament to Stern's vision that now it all seems to have been inevitable.